Hi everybody, my name is Nicole and I am here with my friend Jerelyn. I am Birdability's Communications and Volunteer Coordinator, and what you're about to see was originally an event that we held during Birdability Week 2023, which was our fourth Birdability Week, which is an annual celebration of birders with disabilities and health concerns. But we had some technical difficulties, the recording didn't quite work out, and we thought it would be better to just reenact the whole thing and have a better product for you guys to all see. And so that's what you'll see in a moment. We are outside, and you'll notice the paper's blowing around a little bit, the leaves and sticks, but that's how it is when you're sketching out in the field, out in nature, and so it is very realistic. And here's Jerelyn.
Hi, I'm Jerelyn, as I've been introduced from Nicole. We've been friends for quite a long time from the Denison and Pequot Nature Center, and she had asked me if I would be able to do a project using nature as our inspiration. And that's perfect for me because nature has always been a way for me to relax and to kind of get my head straight. If like you're in work and you're very stressed out, I would come home and kind of just sketch and draw, and even more so being out in nature and sketching and drawing, which is what we tried to do today. We tried to make it as realistic as it would be if you were outside sketching somewhere and you found a beautiful bird, and that's what we're doing today. So I hope you enjoy it, and you can see that we are outside because you can hear the children talking, but it's okay, it's all part of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to just go over a little bit about the supplies that you'll need. I would say that a couple of things that you would definitely need, of course, is a pencil and an eraser. So I use a technical pencil. I find them to be the best. And I have a small, tiny eraser like this so that you can get into details, and a bigger eraser like this. So that's what I use to do the drawing. You are going to draw on a piece of paper that is on the other side, but it's a watercolor paper. You would try to get something that you can do watercolor and pencil or inking, and you don't have to buy an expensive one. The other thing you would use is tape, because you're going to tape down your project if you feel like it's going to move around. Watercolor, I suggest if you're going to go outside, you probably want to bring a watercolor set like this one, because you don't have to worry about all the other like having things moving them around, like the little tubes and everything. This is simply, you have the caked ones, and I'll show you this one. So I would suggest you do that. And let's see, brushes, of course. You want to bring your brushes. Of course, you only need to bring 2 or 3, not all those. I have a secret. I use this little guy. It just gives you a little bit of water instead of a bunch of water that you would put in here. This is like more for cleaning your brushes, and this is more for putting on the paint and getting it wet, so you don't have to bring additional water with you if you were to decide to go outside. In nature, you can actually just use this. I think we have just about everything. Oh, well, don't forget an ink pen.
Ink pen.
Okay, that's
All right.
it.
Thank you, Jerelyn.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So again, we are reflecting on the therapeutic benefits of art and being out in the field and enjoying nature. And before we get into it, I'm going to show you the model we are using today. We will have an image of this edited over the photo or video. Can't see it very well. But yeah, these are the nuthatches we are drawing today. White-breasted Nuthatch, Birdability's little logo. All right, let's get into it.
Today we're going to learn the benefits of drawing and painting using nature as our inspiration. I'm not here to try to make you into a famous artist. I'm just here to evoke creativity and experimentation through the medium of pencil and watercolor, and in being inspired by nature. Do not worry about the finished product. This is to use it as an exercise to relax, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to practice relaxing, no expectations, just fun. So we're going to start with a small exercise that I use when I would like to draw. So in this case, we're going to draw birds. So we are going to use a model But right now, since we're outside, we can use this, because maybe you'd be drawing birds if you were outside, you know, and you saw something, you want to kind of sketch it down. So this will kind of give you an outline on how to do that. So so if I know I'm going to be outside, I'm going to start listening to the winds, and then I start to think about the bird that I want to paint or draw. And I begin by closing my eyes and kind of thinking about the shapes that I see. Is the bird kind of a chubby bird or a thin bird? I examine the colors, and I try to really look closely at the details in my head. And as I do that, I'm kind of like taking pictures of it in my head to try to remember it when I open my eyes. Now, I'm talking, but it would be very quiet, and you would just be thinking about the bird and kind of keeping it in your mind. So I would do that for probably maybe a minute, and then I would open my eyes again, and then we can turn to the model. And the model we have here, we're going to draw on the paper, and we're going to pretend that the birds are in the tree, and we're going to pretend that they stopped for a moment, and here we are. So I'm going to use a pencil. I typically use a mechanical pencil, because it's easier to erase and easier to see lines. So what I would say is that, you know, when we started talking before, we were looking at shapes. So the shapes of the birds that I see, so you're starting with your paper. You usually would want to use some kind of watercolor paper or something. This is a paper that you can do ink and watercolor, and that's kind of what we'd be doing today. And you're not soaking the page. You're not using a lot of watercolor. It's just to be able to suggest colors. You don't have to go heavy on them. So that's the paper that I would use. But since I'm teaching you how to paint, I'm going to do it in steps so that you can see, versus having a finished picture or you know, having nothing on the page. So I'm starting here, and I said, let's look at the ovals. So there are oval shapes on each bird. And so I drew here, see, I drew the one oval here, and then I looked at the relationship between the two. And then you're going to draw the second oval. And then you're going to look and see if there's any other shape. So here on the top bird, I do see something like an oval, but I'm going to just kind of give it a little bit of a straight top, like sort of like this. But again, it does not have to be perfect. You're just looking at shapes right now. And then we're going to the bottom bird, and I'm looking again, and I see another sort of ovalish without the bottom part here. So I'm just going to put that down. Okay. So now you're going to take the whole page, and you're going to look at the relationship between the birds, just the shapes. Do you have enough space in between to put your beaks? So this one here, so that's another shape. I would say that's more like a triangle. So I'm going to put in my triangle here. And then you look at the other bird, and the triangle is facing up. So I would draw that one. Now, you're looking at the relationship. So you look at what you see and see my relationship, meaning that this bird in relationship to this bird, this space is what I wanted to see. That makes me know that I'm kind of in the right perspective. Okay, so now we have the two ovals, and we have the basic shapes. Now, in our model, we have like a piece of a branch. And so again, this is something that you can do. You can follow the branch that they have, or you can make your own branch. A lot of people just like to use their creative sense and just do it. But I am going to take what I see here, and I'm going to quickly draw it in. And since I already have, I don't know, hopefully I'm doing this dark enough. And I'm going to put it in darker so you can see it. But I am putting in the branch, and I'm just doing it really quick. And I'm looking around here. There's another branch that's coming out of there, and I'm doing that. And over here, there's just a little piece here. And you're just going to come all the way down and just kind of make it end at the bottom here. Again, we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to make the pieces. And then, okay, so on my bird, I don't really see much on this side. This is all I see. Then just a little bit down here at the bottom. So again, it may not be perfect. Mine's not perfect right now, but I just want to get it in here and see a little bit more. It's a little thicker. Okay, so now you have kind of your base, what you're working with. We try not to go with detail first, because detail, if you put all this beautiful work into something and then it's not in the right place, you'll really be bummed. And that's happened to me many times. So we want to just put in, again, we're just looking for relationships. So I'm looking at the nuthatch, and it kind of has like a little hat on, I think. Looks kind of like a hat. So I'm going to put that hat line right where I see the hat line, I call it. And if you want to be a little, you know, I like to just put a little, like my lines like this, because that's, you know, how the feathers are, and versus the straight line. That's what I do. And then here, so I'm going to deal with the top bird. And I'm looking here, and I'm looking, so you see in this particular model, the wings are all kind of equaling right in the middle. So I make my line like that. And then you're going to work, make my line a little darker so you can hear. So it's like right in the center, around the center. Because on the model, you'll see that all the feathers look like they're coming out from there. Okay, so when you're making this line on your paper, you want to make this lighter. Don't make it so dark as mine, because the paper versus tracing does imprint the pencil more than tracing does, because tracing you can easily erase it. So if you do go thick and heavy, you can always take an eraser and just kind of lightly take off some of that line, so it kind of looks like that. So you just have an idea of where it is. Okay, so now we're going to start at the very bottom here. There's nothing after that little black hat. You're going to kind of look at relationships, and you see like there's an M that starts here. So you're going to start with your M's, and you're going to make one M real quick. Don't get hung up on it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can just make your M's and your long tails. M, and I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 M's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 M's, right? So that you're just putting it in, just getting where it is. And then you're going to go down to here and do the same thing. So remember, when I was telling you to like feel how a bird is, like you're thinking in your mind, you want to remember that a bird is not flat. So right now he's looking pretty flat, or he or she's looking pretty flat. And we want to just make sure that that little hat that they're wearing is kind of going around. So it's like sort of you're kind of doing this around it. That'll give the appearance that he or she is round. And the same thing with when you're drawing the rest of it. So here, there's like a little space in between that's gray. Looks like the feathers are gray there. And you're going to do sort of the same thing. And you're going to look at the line that starts. So look at the relationship. It's hitting this part of the tree. And you're just going to kind of make that line. And remember to always pull it up so that it looks round. See how it's looking rounder than it did before? And then you're going to again make that. Remember, we made a line up at the model, which is here, that line. You're also going to do that here, but obviously this bird has a different position. So, and this bird's center is more, so I'm looking here, it's like more here. So you're going to kind of put that center. And again, it's not flat. The bird isn't flat, and that's what I mean. You kind of have to feel like this bird and know that the wings will probably be more like that. So your line is going to kind of have a sort of a little bit of a bend to it, okay? And now we're looking again, and we're going to start this here. If you're sketching a bird and you're not a master, and I don't expect to be a master, you're not going to have to get this perfect. You just put in your M's, okay? So they're upside down M's. You're just putting them in quickly. You're suggesting where they are. You don't have to make them perfect. So I'm not making them perfect. I'm just going to put them in. But you do notice that the relationship between these two M's are definitely, they have more space here, right? And then they get smaller as they go. So the feathers are probably folding. So you could just do it quickly. You know, I'm not going to put a lot of effort into it right now because, you know, you'll go back and perfect it. You want to just make sure everything is in its right spot. first. So I'm just doing that really quick, but keeping a very small M, another M, and I'm watching what I'm doing. Oops, see, then I could add another line in there. M, M, right? So you're kind of having that. And then you notice that there's another wider M that comes down like that. So that's like that end feather. And then there's another one that's also coming underneath it like that. Okay, so simple. Now we can try to hit the feathers at the bottom here with this sort of egg-like shape. And you're just gonna put those lines in that make it look like the wings are, there's a couple of feathers folding. So again, you're just gonna go like, you know, sort of like that, okay? And that's what you're gonna, you really can't see, or I can't really see much on my end, but you can do it the same thing on the other side. And again, I noticed something about mine. Mine kind of has this roundness to it, and I could just say, oh gosh, I wanna make that a little bit more squarish. But again, I'm not gonna get hung up. I almost did. So we're gonna jump back up to this guy's head. And we're going to look at, there's another pattern to see. So it looks like, if I look at it, it looks like the white part of it. I'm trying to think, you know, it kind of looks like a mountain, and it looks like it just goes down and up. So I'm going to do that with the bird's face. And I'm going to fix my pencil. I'm going to kind of draw those lines and have it jump down, and I'm watching it. It goes up a little bit and then around. So again, it's not perfect. It doesn't look exactly, and it doesn't even have to, because it's yours. It's not, you know, you're drawing. And then look at the area there and put the eye in real quick. So I'm just going to put my eye in. And remember, you're not looking at the eye straight on. You're looking at it in this perspective, sort of on an angle, so that eye, you know, you don't make a big round eye like this, because you're not looking at it that way. You're kind of making it a little bit on the oval side, okay? So ovalish. And then I see a little bit extra patterning in there, and I'm just going to add a little bit real quick, just so I know where, you know, where to put them. And I see a little black there. And since I'm not, you know, real familiar with every type of bird there is, and I'm not sure if these certain patterns, you know, don't forget them, because they may be very important to identifying the bird. So I'm just putting them in real quick. And then again, this here, just kind of giving that a little bit of roundness. And the same thing here. So if you look at mine, I kind of made this looking kind of flat. So he kind of looks a little flat. So I'm just going to go back and try to round out some things, right? And then do this. And then kind of, you know, let's go back a little bit and just make those lines. So you can do that all the way up, and if you would like. And the same thing, we're going to go over to the wing, over to the tail. And my tail, I made only the half. I think I'm going to try to, I look here and I see that it probably would be more. So again, you're going to start making your lines, so it looks like there's layers of feathers. So kind of like that. Okay. And you're going to then go down to the face again, area, and you're going to look at the relationship between the white and dark part, the hat part, and you're going to just kind of sketch in where you see some of that white, and then down. That's kind of what I'm doing. And then I don't see very much on my side. I don't know what you're going to see when you look at it, but that's what I see. And then here's I noticed I made my beak a little bit too fat, so I'm going to make it thinner. Looks like that's the characteristic of this bird, a thinner beak than what I was making. Okay. And here on my bird, I can just barely see the eye, and that's just like that. So now that really gives it the perspective. He's looking down. And let's see, on this side, if I'm looking straight at it, I can only see a little bit of the eye. So I put the relationship between the other eye and this eye here, just so you have an idea of where they are. Okay, so now you kind of have the sketch in there. And you're just looking at, now we're just gonna look at the textures that are on the bird. So this artist that made this model used a dry brush to make the texture of the feathers, and then use the white to kind of outline the feathers. But now mine's on tracing paper, but yours should be on a regular piece of paper. So you will have this on that. All right, so now I think we can go into starting to paint. I did a little bit of ahead of time, and I wanted to show you because this is what, whoops, this is actually what the bird would look like. But I'm gonna set up how to paint. So this is kind of what we're striving for. We're going to just start by painting with grays, okay? Because if you look at the bird, there's pretty much white and gray and all different variations of them in the model. And that's what you're gonna kind of do. And you'll see that in nature as well. So what I am gonna do, I didn't want you to be bored while I was setting up my painting, but it's good to know. So when I paint, I use a watercolor set, but you can use different kinds. So I'm using a caked one, and this is probably what you would use if you were going out and you were painting outside. You'd want to have a set like this that's easy to carry and easy to take apart. Mine's like that, okay? And this is what I use to mix my colors. And you know, you're saying, why didn't she clean it off before? Because I actually keep the colors here just in case, because I like to work with already mixed colors that I have. It depends on what I'm doing. So here I have a little bit of my grays, some of my grays, and I like to mix different colors so it gives the appearance of being more natural when it's not perfect. Okay, so you can take a real close look. See, there's a yellow gray here, there's a red gray here, and then over here there's a green gray. I was going for a greener gray. But if you're looking closer to at the model, there is definitely a blue gray. So I would have the blue. I would take the color I have instead of having to go here, because you're only going to use a little bit of color when you're doing this. I would take this blue or this blue and add just a tiny bit to my grays. All right, so that's what I'm going to show you now. Let's see. You really don't need a lot of water. That's the beauty part. And I'm going to take one of my brushes here. I'm going to use a smaller brush right now. And in a perfect world, you would not want to mix your colors with your brushes that you would paint, but if you're outside, you're probably going to have to do that anyway. So just pretend we're outside. You don't have to pretend we're outside, but you are. So I'm gonna pick up some of the color, and if you don't have this, that's okay. You can just take, I'm using a squeeze bottle. This is like a very important thing for a watercolor artist to have, because it's not going to get your whole thing soaking wet. You just want a little bit. You don't need a lot. So I'm just gonna take a little bit and bring that over here. A little bit and bring it over here. And luckily, if you can always go over here, just show them over here. You can make a sample of your color. And I'm looking at this right now, and we are super lucky, for me, that this color is very much a blue-gray. So there's not anything I really need to do with that. I would be going into this if I needed to, but I don't have to. So see how that is? Now, that is probably going to be your lightest tone, and I made over here sort of a little grid, sort of a little thing to show you, but that's the lightest gray, which is what we have now, and then to the darkest, which is what we would use to make the hat part of it, okay? So with watercolor, at least what I do is I'm trying to suggest with the colors at first, because the important thing is with watercolors, you're layering to get darker, okay? So here's our base layer. Make sure you load your brush up with it, and you don't have some kind of something in it. And you're just gonna go over you're just gonna go over it. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's a little too dark. So I'm gonna add a little water to it to make it lighter, because you just want a light layer, real light. And I'm gonna go over the whole thing, just like that. Quickly. You have to go fast with watercolor. You can't stay. And you don't worry, like, see how I went over that? That's kind of the beauty of watercolor. You don't have to be perfect, at least for the first layer. And I'm just gonna go over the whole thing. What I didn't say is that you probably shouldn't go over some of the white if you can. So I just left that part that would have white in it, I just left it blank for now. Like I didn't even mess with that. And even though this is going to be white, we would use white paint actually to put in the white that's on the model, okay? Or the white that look like I call it fringe that's on each one. So now you're going to do that with both of them and just put in your colors. So again, I'm going to put I'm just going to do my first layer. And again, you don't have to do it perfect because birds or animals, anything isn't perfect. So it's almost better that you almost see like white in there. It gives it appearance that the feathers are actually feathery versus just being flat gray. Okay, so now the next thing is like if you look at my color again, I'm going to a little bit darker. So I'm going to take that same light and I'm going to light gray and I'm going to move it down a little bit. And I'm gonna take my trusty water and take just a little bit of black and put it over here on the side so you can work with it. And I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to test it. Is it any darker than what I've done? Not very much. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. But it is darker. So that's like a second. Not dark enough though, I think. So I'm just going to keep adding the black and testing it. And that's what you're going to do. Just test it. Now, if you're going to use this as a final piece, like you said, I want to make this a final piece, and you can't cut it out, I would try to use a separate piece of paper. But like with this one, you could probably just cut out what you don't need. So now I'm starting to get my my darker gray going on here. Let's see. And usually the color usually dries, so the lighter color will, even though you're making it light, usually dries a little darker, and the darker color will dry a little bit lighter, believe it or not. So you have to think of that when you're painting, or just keep layering. So the easiest part to do is layer the parts that are darker. So even though I am not making this the last layer of black, I'm just going to suggest, okay, I see dark here, so I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to put another layer on there right where I see the dark. But again, don't get hung up on it, just go. I mean, if it's sometimes people will have the problem with it kind of it looks like it's gonna bleed down. Sometimes bleeding is beautiful, but if you don't want it to bleed, I'm going to take a piece of paper towel and you're gonna roll it up like this, and you say, oh my gosh, that's too dark. No problem, we can just dab it. Right, well, now I'm just gonna keep going so it doesn't take forever. But you're gonna look at the model, and then I'm gonna say, okay, there's some fringe over here. I'm calling it fringe, but I know it's not fringe. And I'm gonna add, whoops, looks like a lot. Just dab it off there. You know, have a piece of it in your hand so you can work and be in control of watercolor. You don't really have to be afraid of watercolor. Watercolor is very friendly. So I'm just gonna add and just do that nice and quick. See? And if you really want to go get detailed, you can start putting it down here a little bit, giving it a little perspective. And I like when it's like sort of light and dark. It kind of gives that feathery look. All right, so now we're going to go back to our dark color again. And let's see, let's do the head. And you're going to go back and put that same darkness in there. And you don't have to be perfect again, because you want it to look natural. And natural is light and darks, naturally. So I'm putting that on there. So you'll do that too. And then now let's do the second bird real quick. Look at the top of the head and then work your paint. So you're starting your paint at the top and you're working it down. Work it down, work it down. That's typically how I paint. Now I'm starting to run out of the darkness. So I'm going to go back here and go back, and I'm following the patterning, which goes to the very end. So you're going to kind of do that. And then we're going to look at the feathers, the bottom of the feathers. There's some dark in here. That's going to turn out pretty light, so I'm going to add black to it. too much. See, I'm dabbing my paintbrush, and I'm going back in there to take out some of it. And the same thing here. Now you're going to go back into your feathers, and you're going to just try to make the detailing. And the way that this person did on the model is that they took their brush, like with a very small brush, and take the strokes, and they kind of went down like this to create that feeling of sort of a featherish feeling. And you can do whatever you want. I mean, however you see these feathers being made, that's what you should do. So I'm just quickly again, because you're out in nature, you want to kind of get this in there before the bird flies away, maybe. So, and I'm just putting them in real quick. Same thing. And you can do that too with the other bird. And so it looks like you're going to have to put the white fringe on it later, but right now we're just going to go over here, suggesting that that's where the feathers are. I'm just doing that real quick. Again, you're not trying to be Van Gogh or something, you're just painting to enjoy. Same thing here, I'm going to add. And if you feel like adding an extra feather or whatever, that's just fine. That, as long as it's not taking away from a significant feature of the bird, you're not adding another wing or something, that would not work. But you just kind of want to do that. All right, so see how I just put in those real quick? And now I'm saying to myself, boy, that looks a little too much gray. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go back to my lighter gray, which is already drying up. And I can just go back real quick and work from there. And I'm going to need more. And work from that darker area to the light. And just do that. See? I'm kind of taking my color I already have and pulling from it to just give it that feeling of being more like a feather. And this person isn't suggesting. That person in the model is actually painting to make it look real, but if you're out in nature, you're not going to have a lot of time to do all that. So you're just kind of trying to make it as fast as you can, pulling the color to make it look like the feathers, quickly. So you're just doing that and letting the water and the paint do its thing, even if it's not exactly like the thing. So I'm looking here, and they've made the texture I told you with a dry brush. So you're going to dry your brush. Am I in the right spot? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you are going to take the color from this so that it's dry. See? Dry. And you're going to kind of go over this. It wasn't dry enough. And try to make like the feathers. Using that quickly. And then you can also do that with some of the others, suggesting the feathers so that you can sort of like that. That's don't worry, see how dark that came? It's all right, you can go back and work with it. Same thing here. Okay, so you're going to do that same thing with your other bird. And you're going to go back here and put in, let's see, I'm going to watch this. There's a lot of gray and black area here, so I'm going to go back in. I don't have any over here, so let's go back. Lighten it up a little bit. That's okay, you have that. And if you really don't like it, you can just kind of go like that. And just keep working it to make it a little darker, because that seems to be darker. I'm gonna just add that like that, okay? And then later on when that dries, we can go over it with the dry brush to give it a little bit more texture. Same thing with this, we're gonna go back. I think this one already did a little bit of the texture. kind of a little darker. Kind of doing that. This is more on the dark area, so you're going to go and take some black and start focusing in on different areas and making them darker. So I need a little more black. I'm just going to kind of go in there and put. You're just going to continuously layer. So, you know, I'm letting this dry. This is a little, and you're going to have to keep going back in there to keep making it darker. Okay, so this one is kind of on the drier side, so we're going to go back and take more. And you're going to go back here to make it darker. But you get the idea that when you're out there, that's kind of on the black side, right? So you don't have to go crazy. You can always finish it when you get home too. You know, you're suggesting where it's going to be, where your colors are going to be, and then you can go back. But another thing I wanted to show you too, here we have that, is if you wanted to make the feathers look like they're feathery at the end, you're going to again use your brush and you're going to go to the dry caked part, and then you're going to practice first, you know, just see how, if you can get some thin, right? And then that has still too much paint on it for me. What I do is I also use old towels. That works really well. And then I go back and I fringe out my thing like this. So I'm making little tiny lines to make it look like it's fringed, right? And what I'm doing now, see, it runs out pretty quick. So you're gonna have to go back and do that on each one. So see how much feathery it looks? It looks a lot more feathery than here. That's how you're gonna put in your detail. You're gonna keep doing that. And then, let's see, we'll keep doing that. You just keep doing that. And the last thing you would do with this is put in your white, and that would be when it's fully dry. But see how I'm putting the details in? Again, you're just trying to suggest, because you don't have a lot of time when you're out in nature. He's probably way gone by now, but you can hopefully you'll take some pictures and you'll have something to refer to if you wanted to draw something you saw in nature. See, I'm going over it with the dark again, giving it, you know, a little bit of, this is giving it the I'm trying to think of the right word I want to use, but see how it's kind of looking a little feathery? So that's kind of how you want to do it. Same thing, so you're gonna just keep going back and forth with that. This does take some time to do. And again, if you don't have to be this detailed, I'm just gonna do it super quick so we can just kind of move on. And the same thing with this. But you wanna just keep building it up with your color so that you're defining where each, now it's too dry, where each one is. See how I'm defining it there? And that's gonna, see, that one's not dark enough, so I'm gonna go back. So we're gonna kind of do that. Now, we're gonna just do the tail real quick. We have the dark, we need to make it a little darker, I think. I'm gonna go back into the actual black and go in there with it, because it's pretty dark. And again, when something this dark, it'll dry lighter than when it comes out here. And then here, I see, I'm gonna kind of put in too wet. So I'm gonna go back and put in, give it a little bit more realistic. It looks more realistic when you do this kind of stuff on it. And then kind of take the lines up. And do the same thing around here. And I'm just gonna leave the white, and then I'm gonna actually when I'm doing the face, it's not entirely white. It's like almost like a grayish white, so I'm going to go really, really, really light. So much lighter than that. Go back here. Say, okay, let's go back to this. Go back with your brush and go back on here to kind of take some more paint off it. And then if you really have to, you can add a little bit of water right on there, which is what I'm going to do to make it light. And I'm going to just brush over the face nice and gently, just with a little bit, because nothing is truly just white. And in life, in nature, it's everything has a little bit of color, I believe. So with my perspective, I have white. Let's see, here we go. And I'm just going to keep dabbing and putting the white, suggesting that there's the feathers here. So you're going to do that with yours, okay? And then you go back with a little bit of this, and okay, looks like I went dark, but I'm just going to suggest that there's feathers in there. And then you're going to need another piece of paper. These are your important tools. How to do that, to give it a little bit. Okay, so that we're just suggesting, and then we can go back and do the eye. You want to go straight to the, straight to the color, but not too, it's got to also be a little wet, somewhere in between, to make the eye pretty dark. So I'm making my eye, making this eye again too. Then I'm gonna, since I have that gray in there, I'm gonna go, looks like the beak has a little gray on it too. We'll go in there, this one here, it's almost all gray. There, and then I'm looking down here again. I'm gonna add a little bit of perspective on here. I'm going down, see how I'm making it look, because this is the bottom part of them, so they need to have, you know, a little detail here underneath. Okay, so I know it still doesn't even look near done, but you're going to use a marker to kind of outline here and there. So right now we're going to take a bigger brush if you have one. Put that back, and so we're going to use this one. And I'm going to mix brown. So here's my brown. I'm going to go here. Kind of load up my brush again and go in my brown area here. And then add some more water to it again, because you're making the background color. And try to match it up to that, and you're going to start from the top. Always start from the top. It's always better to go from top to bottom, so you can have the paint sort of come down and meet it up. Now, if you don't want it to just sit like that, you better just use your piece of paper towel and let that, because you don't want it to bleed into the other. It's not the worst thing in the world, it does. But here we're going to do that. And I feel like I need more, so I'm going to put more in there. And you're just going to follow it down. Pull the color down. That's what you're doing. You're pulling the color down. There it is. I'm gonna add a little more. That's the beauty of bark. It's dark and light everywhere, so you don't have to worry about being too dark or too light in certain areas. Like I'm even kind of just going down here and just saying I'm just gonna take all of it and just go down. I'm kind of working from the side, so it might not be as neat here. And I'm just gonna put all that color all the way where we have the tree. right? So you do that. And then even though this one's kind of wet, you can still go back in, take more, and go back. That was a little too dark, but that's okay. We're just gonna go underneath the bird a little bit and suggest that the bird is on top of, and the way to do that is to make it dark right under where the bird is. See, just taking that color and making it darker, and then taking the color and just spreading it out. Spreading it out. See? So it kind of looks like the bird is on top. And we could get really detailed, but I don't think we're going to have enough time to do all that. Just always looking for water. I forgot to take the water out with me today, so I'm kind of using just this. But you should have a thing of water. This mine's empty. So you should have water though. And just keep working it. So I'm just looking at it, looking back and forth. Okay, so it looks like there's some darkness here, and then I'm just gonna go really fast and just don't get hung up in it. Just it's a tree branch. You don't have to worry. That there's, unless you were studying the tree branch and that was what you were just painting, then, but that's not what you're focusing on. You're focusing on the bird. So I'm just putting in the color, just a little bit of color here. Right. And here I'm going back up to it again, a little more color, and then, as I said before, the bird is on top of the tree branch. So you kind of want to put it dark there so it looks like she's behind. I have a lot of sunlight on my side, so I am not seeing how dark it is on this, but I think there's some darkness. If not, I'm going to add a little bit more. You have to kind of let it, you also have to let it dry to get it to be darker. But, and then you just giving it a little bit more brown. Not a lot, because I said it's not your focus. Don't worry about it. Using a little bit of that dry brush to give it a little texture. And you could go back and do that, but again, you're probably running out of time to do that. So. But that would be the way that you would paint it, okay? And then you can go back, and some people use colored pencils, some people use marker, but we're just gonna put a black marker in there. And where's my black marker? Underneath. And I'm using a black marker. There are all kinds of markers. If you feel like you're done painting it, then you can use any black fine tip marker. But if you're not feeling like you're finished with it, you have to use a watercolor one. A waterproof one. So I feel like this is done as far as I'm going to do, and I'm going to go back here and make their eyes darker because I feel like they were very dark. And then I'm going to go back here where there was black, and I'm going to just kind of put in some detail. Very, very fine detail. You know, and that's like kind of showing that's their hairline. And just kind of making it look. Here, I'm just going to put in some line, and I'm doing a broken line. A broken line means like there's a line here, and then I let it just be suggested that there's a line there, and then this suggesting, and then you're saying, you know, you're kind of defining that there are other. I'm trying to do this on the side, so sorry, but you're giving it definition by doing that. And I think I'll probably just finish this bird because I don't know how much time we have, but you're just gonna do. So see how I did that? I'm starting and just giving it some more definition. And the last thing you would do is put white paint on here to give it the white. Let's see. Doing this. I'm just suggesting, because this is, you know, it's just something you're doing for fun. You don't have to worry. See how I'm finishing that up here? Giving a little detail. And now you're gonna have to do this 1,000 times faster if you're outside and you're trying to catch a bird. But this is just giving you an idea. And then here with the branch, you can just kind of define it and just say that's your outline. And with all these things in there, and then I'm going down here, doing the broken line thing again, just kind of outlining so you can see it a little better. And then here, just gonna go suggesting. And the same thing with this. Putting in a little bit. Doing that real quick. I'm just putting in the lines, you know, kind of trying to finish it a little bit. Just going quickly, you know. If you're just suggesting, this is the way to do it. So that one I did a little bit more detail. This one, if you're out in the woods, you want to just suggest where it is and just say, okay, that's it. There. You can get hung up. You can really get into the detailing, which I kind of find myself doing a lot. So I'm just going to do the last here. But you could do that. And that is kind of how you would draw outside.
That looks wonderful.
Thank you.
Very nice.